Hey guys, I just tried my very first YouTube live stream and I noticed that it was a 20-minute video and I had recorded for 27. So I just deleted the whole thing because it cut off in the middle of one of my sentences. And I wasn't done yet, but at least I got some of the babble out of the way. Hobby update for me. So if you have been with me for a while, you know this, and if you haven't, welcome. I hope you enjoy the content. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. And give me feedback, like your own thoughts on the topics, or post your own videos and link them. So, moved to this state a year ago. It was late February last year. With no intentions to stay here, we were just pausing here while I was looking for work in the state north of us. So I didn't really dig into like a local role-playing scene or even board gaming scene. We went and found the FLGS, but that's it. Career's dead, so finally learned that the career's dead, so we can't look for that anymore. So we're here for the foreseeable short/long term. So it's time to actually start plugging into the local scene. And part of that is, hey, let's find some role players. Now, my wife, Ribbit Froggy, she is working at a bookstore. They do sell some role-playing stuff. They don't sell a lot. They've got like, a 4 by, well, probably basically one section, and that's including like maps and dice and stuff like that. And actually, they have a separate 2-shelf feature right behind the counter. They've got some stuff, but when the store is sells books and sells that small amount of role-playing stuff, you know what they sell. They sell the current edition of Dungeons and Dragons. They sell Pathfinder. They've got some Starfinder stuff. Not the main book though, which is interesting. They now have a vampire book. I have seen the Dragon Age RPG there, the big book, not the one that I've got. This one, I have seen this there, and I thought I'd seen Fate Core there, but I think actually what I saw was Fate Accelerated. But only one copy of each of those, and I haven't seen it that they've been bought or stolen. They actually had a whole lot of role-playing stuff stolen for a while. So bought or stolen, and I haven't seen it come back. Either of those two systems come back since. So I like the people. So I think hey, let's and they sell role playing. Let's see what they know about role playing. Turns out none of them know anything about role playing. Ribbit is the most experienced person out of them all. The only experienced person out of them all. So I'm asking people, well, would you be interested in trying? We actually have several bites about people who are interested in trying. So at that point, I start making a one shot. I pick a system. I have one shots already prepared for lots of other things, right? I completely forgot about what is it? An Arl's Ransom, I think, is a free PDF one shot for Dragon Age. I completely forgot about it. I realized it just a couple days ago. Like, oh dang, I could have done that. Instead, Ribbit Froggy and I actually sat down together and designed a one shot to be co-GM'd. And we did design it to be co-GM'd. Like, so it was she and I were both going to be GMing together. And that allowed us to actually at one point split the party. So that was fun. When they came back together, they were able to share what they had learned and actually be sharing it and having a conversation, because they weren't, there was no player knowledge stuff going on there. They were at different tables in different areas. So anyways, yeah, we were able to do that. We got our first game was 2 Sundays ago. So today's the 20th. So this last Sunday would probably have been like the 16th or something like that. Maybe the 15th. I don't remember. So it wasn't that Sunday. It was the Sunday before. We managed to get 4 of them in. We have another one planned, not for this upcoming Sunday, because there's a free gaming convention in the area. We'll be going to that. So not this upcoming Sunday, but the next Sunday after that, we'll have another one scheduled, assuming that we can get the people in there. So most everybody had a really good time. Redesigned the adventure for exactly 4 people. Not flexible. That wasn't smart. I usually don't do that when I design a convention one shot. I design it for 3 to 5 people. Um, I don't know why I didn't think about that in this case, but I didn't. I designed it for exactly 4 people. So if we can't get 4 in a couple Sundays from now, we'll just slot it for another weekend. That's what we've been doing since all these people are from the same place, right? Is it's difficult to find them all available, right? Because not many of them can be off at the same time. So what we're actually doing is we're playing at the store after they close on Sunday, because they close earlier on Sunday, which was also a little difficult for me because as I am opening all the time, I'm getting up at like 5:20, 5:15, 5:30 regularly, you know. And we start actually trying to talk about like we didn't even start talking about role playing until like 7:45 because someone ran off to Starbucks to get coffee and came back. Um, so 9:30 rolls around and my brain is just, and I didn't get enough sleep the night before. My brain is just bleh. So we kind of even just skipped the whole last fight and kind of just narrated it. I would have preferred to have actually gotten into it deep mechanically, but it's not what happened. Anywho, um, so we had 4 people. I thought one of them was going to be a problem player, but he wasn't. Once we actually really got going and gave him a plot, uh, he focused in. Um, One of the gals, I don't think she'll be returning to the table. I don't think role playing is for her. I think it made her feel really dumb. I mean, I chose Dragon Age, as I said. I chose it partially because I own it, but partially because they sell it. So there's a natural I forget what that word I want is, but it works, right? If they can enjoy Dragon Age, then they can go and order more copies from their supplier, get Dragon Age on the shelf, and actually talk about it with personal enthusiasm. Um, but Dragon Age, right? It's 3d6. Add your stat. Add 2 if you have a focus. She's doing the math on a calculator. Um, we're trying to describe things both as we're talking about what role playing is at the beginning, giving a little spiel about what the Dragon Age setting is like, describing things in the story, and she's missing words. She's having to ask what words mean. So her education level is apparently fairly low, or she didn't pay attention in school, which I guess would give you a pretty low education level. So I think role playing made her feel really dumb. I don't think she'll be returning, which is fine. It's not for everybody. It's too bad it made her feel dumb. She could always rise up to the challenge and change that about herself if she felt like it was a poor showing. No one at the table, as far as I know, made her, pointed it out or made her feel ostracized for it. Not me, not my wife. None of the other players did. So, but the other 3 seemed to have a really good time. Especially, what's interesting is the other gal. There were 2 guys and 2 gals. The other gal was someone who originally was just gonna spectate, right? She was, I'll stay afterwards and watch everybody else play. And just, I guess, because of who could and couldn't show up that weekend, she decided to just play. And once we got into it, man, she just grabbed it and ran into it. She was totally like, "Wow, this was a lot of fun." Um, the other guy who was there is going to be the new general manager of the store. The general manager, who was interested in playing, has also just been promoted to district manager, or at least maybe it's not completely official for her, and therefore it's also not completely official for him because that spot isn't open yet necessarily. But that's the way it's going. Um, he was a big Dragon Age fan, right? So he was going to enjoy the setting. He played all the console games, but not role played. So he had a really good time. So So what we got, what I've got ahead for me personally is more of that. I did meet a couple people at a board game day at a local FLGS that also got into role playing, and one of them has like, he's like, yeah, sure, I've played these games, but I've also played all these other games too. So it's like, okay, you've played the big heavy hitters and you've played lesser known games. That's great. That's the kind of person I'm looking for. I'm not discriminatory, if you will, against someone who plays Dungeons and Dragons. It's just more of an issue if that's all you play. Um, so, anyways, I'd kind of like to do that. I really kind of like to make a home group out of some of the folks at my wife's workplace, but it's going to be difficult to find a time where they're all available that doesn't push over into the hours that are late for me. So, what else is going on for me in the hobby is I haven't gone back to the what I call the D30 RPG system that I'm working on. I have basically a D30 four color chart system that I'm working on. Though it's not four colors for me; it's six colors because there's no, yeah, whatever, doesn't matter. Or is it five colors? One, two, three. Oh, it's five colors. It's five colors. Sorry, not six colors. It's five color. There's no the four color chart only has failure. I wanted there to be a fumble range. But anyways, I haven't actually gone back to that in quite a while. I may soon here, relatively soon. We'll see, and that'll be part of the rest of this video. But I had an idea kind of burning into my head right before the last convention that I was in and running things at the back in Nebraska, um, in early 2000, no, late 2017. Yeah, just around the time that I took the severance. um, I was like, oh, I love this. There's this setting. It's an established setting. It belongs to somebody, right? But they don't have an RPG for it. And I'm like, oh, I bet you that would be great for an RPG. So I start trying to work out mechanics of like, well, how would the fighting go? It's spaceship fighting. Like, how would that go? And now it's kind of rekindled in my brain. So now I've gone ahead and made a separate file folder on my hard drive. So I have a second homebrew that I'm kind of working on right now. Trying to work out like how the combat would go and what would the character creation and design be like. If it plays well and if I find people to share it with and they play it and they like it, then maybe I pass it over to the company that actually owns the property and say, hey, this is what I've been doing, and I've had some other people look at it and play it, and they enjoy it. So if you got some thoughts, if you want to take this and run with it, here you go. It's not a money making opportunity for me. If it became one, then fine, yippee, right? um, so that brings me into the transition of both what's going on for me right now in the hobby and the other part of what I'm going to title this video probably is, and where are we at? 13 minutes. Okay. So as I've been talking to people at the bookstore, at first it's just I want to introduce, it's two-part, right? Like I want to find other people to roleplay with that I like. But two, these people sell role-playing games. They don't know anything about role-playing games. Like they really know nothing. Like I'd never met somebody before who didn't have a concept of why there would be multiple systems. Like or what's in the book. Like they don't even understand what's in the book, which is interesting. Maybe because other people were bigger board gamers that they had an idea of what would be in a book. And because they understand the idea of like, well, you have to sit down mechanics of how to do things, and those mechanics aren't always the same. They do different things. So like just a different level of newbiness to it that I'd never encountered or thought about before. So anyways, I want to introduce them to role playing because they sell this stuff, and maybe we'll find some cool people to play with. But also the former general manager, now district manager, and the former assistant general manager, now general manager, we're both saying, hey, this bookstore's got a cafe, and what they want to do is they want to do more regular events of one kind or another to bring people in, right? Bring people in. If all they do is buy a drink, that's fine. Obviously, if all they do is come in and they don't do anything, that's also fine because it takes attendance to make an event. Um, and if they come in, buy a drink, and go shopping for books and buy something, stupendous, right? Like, and I don't blame them. That makes sense. Um, they talked about like an open mic night, and they're talking about this and that. Um, but one of the things they wanted to look at doing was hold a role playing day. But they don't know anything about role playing, so I guess when I stepped forward and did this, they're like, "Oh, hey, here's our leg into this, right?" I don't know what a leg in is. I just said that. Um, so they keep talking about like it would be really cool if we could do this every week. If we got to the point where we could do this every week. It, the last few times I've talked to them about it, just the guy who's now the general manager, the guy who is really crazy about Dragon Age, he has said something about me coming in and running it. Now, on a weekly basis. Now, after we played and he was in that game, he now gets an idea of why we couldn't just say, hey, we got people who are interested and they can all meet this Sunday, let's go. Right? Like he has an idea like, wow, some amount of planning and design took place. I haven't been able to sit down and have a long discussion about that with him, but I have with other people, right? The idea of like, if you're playing a convention slot game where you need to be able to send people on their way in 3 to 4 hours, you can't just write a short story. Like you also have to think about what's going to make sure the story is done in 3 to 4 hours, right? Like if they stall out or if they go way off the rails, right? Like you have to be thinking about how do I bring this back in? Because I don't want to just rein it back in with a hard block, right? I want to be able to put it in the setting and not make it feel so mechanical. It's already going to feel a bit mechanical if someone knows what they're doing. Especially if they're a GM or a role player, they can see the signs that, okay, I'm being cut off from going here. But then again, they also had the metagame knowledge of it's a convention game, follow the most obvious sign, right? Probably. Um, so, uh, but he has a better idea of like why I wasn't able to just turn around and run it that next weekend. And I'm thinking about this, right? Like I'm thinking about like he would like to see me do this every week, and every week would certainly be fun. I mean, but maybe every week. And yeah, once you get a one shot done, like you can run it again the next week as long as you don't have the same players, right? Um, and yeah, some people can kind of separate that player knowledge versus character knowledge and play the same one shot again. But basically, I should have a library of one shots, right? And yes, I want to pick stuff from Dragon Age because it's a system they can get. I want to pick things from Fate because because that's something that they could sell. But a lot of the systems I like and own aren't systems that they sell. So I don't think that's going to be a big deal. It still gets someone interested in the hobby in general. Um, but anyways, I'm just starting to think about how much time this is going to take, right? At least at first, right? At least on the front end. It's going to take a lot of time as I try to prepare multiple things to do because most likely, if I was to take a guess, the people who would show up the first few weeks are going to be some of the same people, right? Oh, that was fun. Let me go again next time, right? So I kind of half jokingly said last time he said this to me, I was like, yeah, I can clock in every week and come in and do this. I'm not an employee there. And he was like, yeah, I was going to talk to district manager about seeing if we've got, basically we can put you on payroll to do this. Okay. Paid GMs was a topic, right, in our hobby for those of us making videos and Facebook conversations and stuff like that, RPG Brigade and stuff like that. Paid GMing was a topic a while back. I don't remember if I made a video or if I just made comments. My general feeling on that was kind of icky. Um, I feel like you're paying just to have a cool experience instead of running it in a more natural way of just having a gaming group and having somebody step up to be GM and figure out how to do it and learn the system and learn what it means to be a GM and stuff like that. Um, and that you're paying, and also you're paying for a really good experience instead of accepting the ordinary, right? Like this is sort of my same problem with with the televised shows, right? With like Critical Role, and now I have to wonder about Deborah Waller. What's her name? Uh, the two from Daredevil and a few other actors. Oh, and oh my God, Jack Black, who apparently has never role played, according to his intro video. Like, what? You've never role played? Wow. Of all the other nerdy things you've done, you've never role played. That's interesting. Anyways, like the production value and the acting value of those shows is just way, like, I am of the opinion that it's way too high. This is not a hard and fast hill I'm willing to die on or make a big stink about or anything like that. I do not think it is necessarily a great thing. Um, so I feel like paid GMing is kind of going that route a little bit, just on a more local level, rather than passively absorbing it like a TV show. It's something you're getting into. And I think being more natural and having lesser expectations and learning to do it the hard way is a better thing. Again, not a big deal, not a hill I'm willing to die on or anything like that, but but it is kind of how I feel about the topic. And I was like, oh gosh, paid GM. I mean, one, I could use the money. Um, but I think I'm okay with it just in general because I'm not being a paid GM for that reason, right? I'm no star. No one's saying like, "Oh my gosh, Indy, you're such an amazing GM," blah 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 blah, and you do voices and you blah blah blah. I don't do voices. I don't do voices at all for the most part, like 98% of the time. And a good amount of time, even as a GM, I'll just tell you, "Oh, that character tells you blah blah blah." Sometimes. That's definitely a minority of the time. Anyways, right? I would be being paid because I'm running an event for a store. So that feels different for me. That doesn't feel like the same kind of paid GMing. So I'm okay with it. Because it doesn't really feel like the same. Like it doesn't have the same reasons that I would not like it. Um, so so that's what's probably coming up in my future. If it's not going to be paid, if you can't swing the paid, then I won't have any. I'll only have the expectations that are personal in agreement between me and the GM, right? And that might only be, I might only agree to every other week at that point, right? Um, and it's gonna have to be a day that I can get off. Like I'm gonna need to be, I'm gonna have to be off from my job for that. Um, at that time on that day regularly. And right now, that's not something that my job does. We don't even have a manager right now because they fired a manager at another location. They moved our manager got the position, and we're going. This is our fourth week of not having a manager. They have a relief manager, basically a manager that goes around and covers like vacations or medical leave or the lack of managers in stores. And so we've got somebody there doing the manager role, but the store doesn't officially have a manager right now. I'm up for it. I want to do that. If I get that, that's going to severely limit my time. Um, I so anyways, that's kind of what's up. Now, if I did do games there regularly, also if I was store manager, I could make the schedule. I'd be the one making the schedule, so I could make sure I have that time available. um, This also gives me a place to introduce something like Rollmaster. Like usually I do it to the convention crowd, and that's good because these folks are step into new role playing games easier probably. The ones that aren't just sitting there for the organized events. But this is a whole new crowd, right? Like these aren't even role players that like some of them won't be role players that I'd be introducing it to. Uh, it's going to be give me a good, interesting place to do one shots in any of the systems that I'm developing and let them know, like, hey, this is the system I'm developing. Give me your feedback, blah blah blah. Um, I'll be running this again in a month. Come back again, and we'll see what tweaks I've made. Stuff like that. So that's what's going on. It's going to be an interesting next few months, I think. I don't know if I'm gonna. I really want to catch up with those other two people, with two people I saw through board gaming that sound like they'd be the kind of role players that I would want to role play with, and that might actually make it easier to get a home game going on with some of the bookstore people because, like I said, probably really really hard to get all the bookstore people involved, or not all, but have an entire party made up of the bookstore people because it's going to be super hard to get them all to have them all off at the same time and not be running super late. But if I had one or two of them, and one or both of these other two guys that I met from the game store, that could be a decent home group, and maybe I finally actually have a regular role playing group again. Anyways, that's what's kind of going on. I'll probably make a video or two about my homebrew setting today. And I'm going to keep working on some of my game design for the setting that is licensed and doesn't belong to me, and doesn't have a system of its own. It's a pretty darn freaking big system. It's been around for the setting in the media that it's in has been around for I think it's darn near 20 years. So even if you count the people who've been there for 3 years but aren't there anymore, or they've only been there for the last 3 years, that kind of stuff. This is even bigger than Farscape, and Farscape has a freaking RPG, so why doesn't this? Which, by the way, I'm thinking for the non-combat, I think Fate would work well. That's what I think. I think for the non-combat, Fate works well for this. And for the combat, even the things that are really close aren't getting the tone. Like, while they might work mechanically really well, like Battletech. I think Battletech would, if you ripped off Battletech rules, it would work really well. Mechanically speaking, I don't think it's going to get the tone for the combat. Like, the tone of the combat needs to be more frantic. Like, it needs to be, you need to make tactical decisions right now, and you're going to see the result of those tactical decisions in the next round or two. Right? Like, either as it plays out, or you'll see or the round after that. And you need, so you might not make perfect decisions, and that's intended in the design. Like, you may not make perfect decisions because you don't have the time. Like, go, 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 go. And that's kind of how I want to represent some of the real-time, frantic pace of what it feels like. So with that, Battletech doesn't really kind of work. I mean, I guess you could. You just write it down, but resolution is a little slow in Battletech. A little slow. It might be really slow for this too. I don't know. Anyways, it'll give me this. If I do this thing with the bookstore, it'll give me a nice opportunity and a nice place to work some of that stuff out. Hey, if you've made it this far in the video, first off, you're amazing. Secondly, do you think I should pull my camera focus back? I do kind of talk with my hands a lot, but that means that sometimes, a lot of times, it's off camera, right? Like, whereas I look at, it's not Rick's videos. I don't know the names. I don't know the names well enough on Facebook there. You, gentleman who wears the hats. You wear different hats, and you usually film in the basement. I don't remember your name off the top. Maybe you're a Rick too. Maybe there's two Ricks. I don't remember. Right, but like yours are far back, right? So you can see all your torso. I'm just sitting there thinking, I talk with my hands a lot. Maybe I need to pull my camera back. See you guys later.